Hey everybody, it's 100 Donathan here, Joseph, and I'm going to be talking about some recent big news that happened. The United States has extradited the former dictator of Honduras, Juan Orlando Hernandez, to the United States to stand trial for drug trafficking charges and weapons smuggling. And the reason this is significant is this is the first Latin American leader in 30 years to be extradited and tried in the United States since Manuel Noriega of Panama back in 1990. So the reason I'm making this video is although the extradition of Juan Orlando Hernandez has been in the news, including in the US media, they're not telling the whole story. And that is that Juan Orlando Hernandez was, up until now, a close U.S. ally, a U.S.-backed dictator in Honduras. The United States has a long history of supporting horrible dictators in Latin America, and also, in particular, Honduras. Some past dictators the U.S. backed in Honduras were Tiburcio Andino and General Oswaldo Lopez and General Policarpo Paz Garcia. And ever since a coup in 2009, the United States backed two really horrible leaders in Honduras who have now been publicly exposed and disgraced, Porfirio Lobo Sosa and Juan Orlando Hernandez. And the United States praised Juan Orlando Hernandez for the past 8 years under the Obama administration, the Trump administration, and last year the Biden administration was still working with Juan Orlando Hernandez and refusing to publicly criticize his corruption and horrible rule until his term ended in January 2022. And now the United States is turning on its puppet dictator in Honduras, and they're betraying their own pawn. Juan Orlando Hernandez was nothing more than a pawn for the United States, and now he's being thrown away in jail. So I want to share a quote from one U.S. Senator, Patrick Leahy, who said, "Throughout the past 8 years of decay, depravity, and impunity, successive U.S. administrations sullied our reputation by treating Hernandez as a friend and partner. By making excuse after excuse for a government that had no legitimacy and functioned as a criminal enterprise, U.S. officials lost sight of what we stand for, and that our real partners are the Honduran people." That quote really does sum it up with the United States government's horrible and hypocritical foreign policy of backing Juan Orlando Hernandez, as well as Pepe Lobo before that, where we knew they were bad, and even when it was becoming so obvious, by 2018, for example, when Juan Orlando Hernandez's younger brother, Tony Hernandez, was arrested in Miami, Florida by the DEA, caught with cocaine on him, a congressman from Honduras and President Hernandez's younger brother in 2018, the U.S. government still kept defending Juan Orlando Hernandez as a reliable partner of the U.S., and the U.S. Embassy in Honduras kept praising him even after this. There is no criticism of Hernandez other than from the U.S. Justice Department. And even when Juan Orlando Hernandez was named as a co-conspirator in his brother Tony Hernandez's trial in 2018 and 19, the Trump administration, as well as many U.S. officials and senators like even Marco Rubio of Florida, kept publicly shaking hands with Juan Orlando Hernandez. So there's some other recent quotes I just want to share that have come out from the Justice Department now with Juan Orlando Hernandez. The DEA administrator Ann Milgram recently said, "The DEA's multi-year investigation revealed that Juan Orlando Hernandez was a central figure in one of the largest and most violent cocaine trafficking conspiracies in the world. Hernandez used drug trafficking proceeds to finance his political ascent, and once elected president, leveraged the government of Honduras, the police, the military and financial resources to further his drug trafficking scheme. Also in the press release, the Justice Department said, in connection with both the 2013 and 2017 elections in Honduras, Hernandez directed members of this conspiracy to bribe politicians and election officials with drug proceeds to ensure that Hernandez won the presidency. And at the time in 2013, the Obama administration congratulated Juan Orlando Hernandez when he was elected president in 2013, even though it was a dirty election, just like the U.S. supported the 2009 election in Honduras of Pepe Lobo, and it's been revealed that Porfirio Lobo Sosa, the Justice Department themselves admitted, was taking lots of drug bribe money for his campaign from his own son, Fabio Lobo, who I made a video in the past, who's now serving a 24-year sentence in the United States. And the Obama administration, for example, supported Juan Orlando Hernandez when he changed the Constitution of Honduras in 2015 so that he could run for a second term in office. And then in 2017, when he was running for an illegal second term, a lot of the Honduran people were decrying the fraud, which was obviously happening in the 2017 election, and demanded a recount. Even the Organization of American States said that Honduras needed to do a recount. However, what Orlando Hernandez did was he ordered his military forces, the security forces, to crack down on the protesters. And in November and December 2017, the military security forces of Honduras killed over 23 protesters. And the U.S. government did not condemn this. They didn't criticize it. Instead, they praised Juan Orlando Hernandez on another political victory and didn't cry out any of the human rights abuses. And the United States still continued sending military aid to the Honduran security forces, despite these blatant human rights violations and killings of these trigger-happy troops in Honduras. This is why it's really hypocritical and a cruel joke when the U.S. military published a video titled, U.S. military aims to improve lives in Honduras, despite when the U.S. military just stood back and watched as the Honduran military killed over 23 protesters in that 2017 election. The U.S. military stationed in Honduras did not intervene to stop the trigger-happy Honduran troops from killing unarmed protesters. So the United States military had no business publishing a video on Voice of America on YouTube with a video titled, U.S. military aims to improve lives in Honduras. The United States is not improving lives in Honduras with its role in military training there. So while I'm glad that Juan Orlando Hernandez is going to jail, it's not the complete story. Right now, he's just the fall guy. What needs to be talked about is the U.S. government officials and politicians who were allies and friends with Juan Orlando Hernandez, and by all means, guilty of aiding and abetting a criminal. This goes for the Obama administration. Barack Obama and Joe Biden were close friends of Juan Orlando Hernandez from 2014 to 2016, the Trump administration. This also includes our U.S. military leadership, such as General John Kelly. John Kelly was the head of U.S. Southern Command until 2016 and was a close friend of Juan Orlando Hernandez and once was quoted calling him a great guy. And Kelly, after his military career, served in the Trump administration as Homeland Security Secretary and then Chief of Staff, and still continued his praise for Juan Orlando Hernandez and other military officials such as Admiral Craig Fowler, another U.S. Southern Command commander, who was recently still praising Juan Orlando Hernandez and posing for photos with him, even as Hernandez was being named a co-conspirator by the U.S. Justice Department in drug trafficking. Admiral Craig Fowler still thought it was a great idea to pose for photos with Hernandez and call him a friend of the U.S. And Admiral Craig Fowler was once quoted during a Senate hearing calling Honduras that there's still elements we can trust in the Honduran security forces. And yet the Justice Department says, as I mentioned, that the military and the police of Honduras were used in these cocaine trafficking coming to the U.S.-bound cocaine with Hernandez. And Admiral Craig Fowler was praising these people. And he was wrong. Also, Senator Marco Rubio of Florida was an ally until recently of Juan Orlando Hernandez. I wonder if Marco Rubio is going to try to speak in defense of Juan Orlando Hernandez in a trial or try to say, oh, I never knew him. You see, these people need to go and give an account also in court in this trial because they're guilty. They're involved in this. They are culpable in this. They're complicit. And also, speaking of the United States' role in Honduras, once again, I'll bring up, the U.S. has had an air base in Honduras since 1983. The Soto Cano Air Base, where about 1,000 to 1,500 American soldiers are stationed there. And the U.S. military on their website says one of their goals is fighting drug trafficking. So the Justice Department themselves said that Hernandez turned Honduras into a narco state. The Attorney General of the U.S., Merrick Garland himself, said Juan Orlando Hernandez turned Honduras into a narco state. So how is it that the U.S. military has been in Honduras for 39 years, since 1983, and said they're winning the war on drugs and stopping cocaine bound for the U.S., and then on the other hand, the Justice Department is contradicting the U.S. military's statement by saying Honduras is a narco state and it's out of control, the drug trafficking, and all the Honduras political leadership and the military and police are in on it. The very military and police of Honduras that the U.S. military are training and advising and supplying with American military weapons. And the U.S. really doesn't have anything to show for in stopping cocaine in Honduras. Cocaine laboratories are present in Honduras, and this has been exposed and revealed. How can that happen if the U.S. is supposedly aware of everything going on in Honduras? If the U.S. military is supposedly informed and knows everything going on in Honduras, that they're still allowing cocaine to go through, that's a waste of American taxpayer dollars. And it leaves a lot of questions, just like the U.S.'s role in Panama. When the U.S. owned the Panama Canal and a lot of military bases in Panama, still lots of cocaine from Colombia was going through Panama and going through the canal. Some people don't want to hear it, but I do believe that many people in the U.S. military who are stationed in Honduras are probably taking bribes from drug traffickers, and it's really easy for drug smugglers to outpay a U.S. military salary. The United States really needs to own up to its failures with Honduras, and that they backed Juan Orlando Hernandez and knew he was bad. His horrible rule made Honduras worse, as well as Pepe Lobo, and ever since that coup in 2009, and this is a big part of all the illegal migration coming from Honduras, all the migrants coming from Honduras to the U.S. border, is because of the cruel, repressive rule and corruption and poverty in Honduras that the United States continued backing with American military aid and American political support. Because horrible leaders like Juan Orlando Hernandez and Pepe Lobo and their party, the National Party of Honduras, are friendly to America's economic interests, such as the banana and fruit industry, the coffee industry, textiles, because the United States gets t-shirts and pants also made in textile factories in Honduras. And as long as it's done for cheap, the U.S. will back whatever horrible leader is in that country. The next Honduran major figure who's going to be extradited to the United States is Juan Carlos Bonilla Valladares, who I made a video on in the past. Juan Carlos Bonilla Valladares was a longtime Honduras police officer from 1985 until his retirement in 2016, and he was the commander of the Honduras National Police from 2012 to 2013, and he was indicted by the U.S. Justice Department and will be extradited to the U.S. also on drug trafficking charges, and that he used his position in the police to work on behalf of some drug traffickers to kill their rivals. And the other thing about Juan Carlos Bonilla Valladares is he was once trained by the U.S. military. On School of the Americas Watch, they revealed that Valladares took a cadet course with the U.S. Army School of the Americas program in 1992. So here's another Honduran with long connections with the U.S. who was supported by the U.S., who now they're also extraditing and going to throw away in jail. How about all the Americans, including the military, who were his friend and trained him in the first place?